Yo, listeners, welcome to Tetsuo Tells a Story. I'm Tetsuo. This episode's story theme is on police officer, paranormal, or creepy encounters. I thought I'd focus on police officer experiences because I binge watched the Night Stalker docuseries and I enjoyed the thrill of the cat and mouse chase. I thought Officer Salerno and Officer Carrillo did an awesome job detailing the case. I'd also like to add, if you haven't, please check out Leng Vang's Scary Hmong Stories 911 Calls. The story where the mother is gnawing away at the knife gets me every time. Lastly, please let me know what type of stories you'd like to hear in the comments below. Please remain respectful to each other and in the comments. Alright, let's get on with these 4 police officer scary paranormal stories.
9207.
Story 1. Safety Officer. Yep, not exactly a PO, but I worked with them very closely and was technically a safety officer, but did everything a PO did. So I was on campus at a university, and there was a complaint about someone slamming doors in one of the buildings. Keep in mind the buildings are closed except for professors and faculty, and it's around 11 p.m. Shortly arriving to the person who had called. Sure enough, I shit you not, it sounded like someone was pounding on the door. I called for assistance, thinking someone snuck in, and wait. Whilst waiting, we hear the pounding again. Sounds like it was coming from the stairwell. Once my partner arrived, we walked down the very long, narrow hallway, looking in every classroom and checking every door. Every door is locked and shut. Nothing in the classrooms. We proceeded to check the stairwells and find absolutely nobody or anything residing in the stairwells. We relocked all the doors, and on our way out, we hear one creak open. Sure enough, the door on the stairwell is open after being secured shut. We noped the fuck right out of there. We got back to base and watched the cameras, and it, clear as day, opened right after we turned the corner. I refused to go there at night and without a person with me. No answer at all to why it happened. Ever since, we've received calls asking to investigate some banging and whatnot from the same building. No answers. I was never a believer in paranormal until this. Story 2. 5150. I had a call to a residence for a mental evaluation, or a 5150. Anyways, I get there and I speak to a 50-some-year-old woman who states that her 20-some-year-old son is under the influence of an unknown drug and kept repeating that he can't go into his bedroom because there was an old man hanging in his room.
She stated that she was too scared to go into his room and investigate it for herself because he constantly brings over friends who are drug addicts and is unsure if his claims were true or not,
said one officer. I then go speak to the son, who is clearly under the influence of a stimulant. He goes on to tell me that he was told by a spirit to not enter the bedroom because her father, dressed in his military Class A uniform, was hanging in his bedroom. I checked the room out, and of course, there was no body hanging in the room. As I'm in the middle of explaining to the mother that there was no body in the bedroom, a veteran officer arrives on scene to assist me. He pulls me aside and stated that earlier in his career, he responded to this residence, and that same bedroom, he had to investigate a suicide by hanging of an older male subject. He didn't quite remember all the details, so I looked it up in our report management system in my patrol car, and sure enough, the officer was correct. The subject who died was a World War II veteran and had dressed in his military uniform and hung himself. Story 3. Small town Nebraska cop. I worked as a police officer in a small town in rural Nebraska. Back in the 1980s, I was patrolling through town during winter. We had several abandoned houses in town, but one seemed to be the attraction of copper thieves. So I was told to keep an eye on it. I drove by around 7 p.m. since it sat on a corner of a lot. I had a clear view of all four sides of the house. As I drove around the corner, nothing looked out of the ordinary. About 2 hours later, I drive by again, and the back door is wide open. I know that the back of the door was not open when I drove by earlier. Looking at the snow on the ground around the house, there were no footprints, so I thought, what the hell? I called dispatch, and I tell them I'm investigating an open door at the address and ask for a county sheriff to start my way. I walk towards the open door, pull out my flashlight, and shine it inside. The house was obviously gutted for the most part. The plaster walls had been torn down, debris piles everywhere. Since there were no footprints in the snow around the door other than mine, and with all the dust on the floor not showing any footprints, I chalked it up to the wind, or maybe the door just opened on its own. I was securing the door when I hear a loud thump come from upstairs, and what sounded like kids laughing. So when I entered the house and yelled,
Police department, come downstairs.
More of what sounds like kids playing. I tell dispatch that it sounds like there are kids in the house, and started making my way through the kitchen into the living room, where the stairs are, all the while cautiously checking the main floor. 2 more times I hear something upstairs, but since I had no response, I started thinking maybe it's an animal. Still, I hear what I swear was kids laughing. I head upstairs and it gets all quiet. The stairs is relatively small with a hallway at the top of the stairs that has one bedroom to the right, one straight ahead at the end of the hall, and a bedroom to the left. As I get to the top of the stairs, I hear a thump in one of the bedrooms to the left. I carefully peek around the door, and it's an empty room with a small pile of plaster and wood debris in the middle. No kidding, sitting on top of the pile of debris was a page torn out of a child's book with a picture of a police officer on it. The hair stood up on the back of my neck. I got out of that room, quickly cleared the other rooms upstairs, and got the fuck out of there. I told dispatch nobody was in the room, locked the back door, and never went back in there again. Story 4. The Rookie Cop. I was a rookie cop when my brother committed suicide. He was one of my older siblings, but we were very close. He died in another state, and I had a lot of guilt back then about not recognizing the signs. His remains were in bad shape by the time he was discovered, so it was a closed coffin service. About a week after he died, I was back at work one night, and my partner and I see a pimp pistol whipping one of his girls. I jump out and the pimp sees me, and the foot chase was on. I was running after him, gun in hand, and he cuts through a narrow corridor under a building that leads to a courtyard in the middle. Right before I reach the courtyard, I hear, "It's okay," in my dead brother's voice. I hit the courtyard, and the guy is against the side, pointing a gun at my head, and squeezes the trigger twice. I froze for a millisecond, and then start beating him in the head with my revolver. Till this day, I don't know why I didn't just shoot him. I cuffed him and walked him back to the street and find my partner. I told my partner about him squeezing the trigger, but not the voice I heard. We unloaded the gun, a .32 revolver, right there, and 2 bullets have strike marks on them. I take the gun to the lab for testing, and I tell the tech the story. He puts the 2 bullets with strike marks back in and shoots them into the test bank. Both bullets fired. Thanks everyone for listening in on these 4 police officer paranormal stories. If you enjoy this story, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Tetsuo Tells a Story. You can find me on YouTube and podcast providers such as Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Do you have a story to tell? Let me know and I can read it to the world. See you in the next episode. Thanks.